Alright, so we just had the version 3.1 live stream for Honkai Star Rail this morning, and we finally got some kit info about the upcoming characters Tribbie and Mydei. From what we saw in the live stream, they both have some pretty good potential to be very valuable, so today I want to go over everything we learned about them from the live stream, and to give my overall opinion on their value and whether or not you should be thinking about pulling for these characters. So let's start out with Tribbie here. She's going to be a Quantum Harmony character, so we are getting yet another Harmony support. Starting out with her kit here, her basic attack, unlike most basic attacks that are single target, she does have a blast attack, which is, kind of cool, but there aren't really any mechanics attached to it. But outside of the fact that you are going to be using her basic attack a decent amount because her skill, as we'll get into, is a multi-turn buff, there aren't really any other mechanics attached to the basic attack. Then for Tribbie's skill, she does give an all-type res pen buff to allies for 3 turns, so very similar to Mydei's damage buff, where she does have like the 3-turn counter. I don't believe they confirmed whether or not it's going to be on Tribbie's turns that the countdown will decrease, but judging by how these types of abilities work, it wouldn't surprise me. Then for Tribbie's ultimate, she is going to do an AoE attack, and will also activate a zone, kind of similar to like Jiao Cho. So in the zone by Tribbie, the enemies will take an increased amount of damage, and anytime any of Tribbie's allies will attack enemies, Tribbie will be able to deal an extra proc of quantum damage to the target of the ally's attack that has the most HP. And the more enemies that the ally hit during their attack will lead to more damage from Tribbie's additional damage. So this is going to work really well for AoE centric comps, because you are going to be able to do more extra damage if you are hitting, 3, 4, 5 enemies with the allies there. Then for Tribbie's talent, whenever allies use their ultimate, Tribbie will do an additional follow-up attack, which is just a bit of extra damage there, which is going to be nice overall. Then lastly for her kit, from what we know, her technique is going to activate her skill buff at the start of battle, which is basically the same thing as Mydei's technique, which is a very strong technique, so that you don't have any downtime regardless of however you build Tribbie in terms of speed. So that is a very good thing to have to make sure your skill is up right away at the start of battle. That is everything we had for her kit so far. So to go over my overall thoughts on Tribbie, I think she is probably going to be a very strong support character, because I do think that her mainly being a res pen buffer and then also having enemies take increased damage with her ultimate, I do think that that's going to be better for a lot more DPS characters, especially as we get into Mydei's kit. We might be going into a point in time for Star Rail where we're not just having attack scalers anymore. We're going to have characters that are scaling off of other things, and that makes other supports that focus on buffing damage through attack, they may not be as valuable for some of these newer characters if they scale on other stats. But because Tribbie is able to buff res pen, that's going to be good regardless of what stat you scale off of. So she is going to be very helpful there. I think her best setups are going to be on AoE or multi-target, teams and situations, which are becoming a lot more common now ever since the release of the Herda. And I do think that for the Herda, she probably will end up being the best Harmony character to run on that team when she's out, just based on what her kit is able to do. And if we have other characters coming out in the future who are AoE, like Anaxa being the next erudition that we know about, she could be very good for him as well. I mean, probably regardless of what he does. So I do think Tribbie is going to be a pretty strong character to pull for. But now let's move on into Mydei, who's honestly the character I'm more hyped about, mainly just because his design is so cool. Now let's talk about Mydei's kit. Mydei is going to be an imaginary destruction DPS character, and he does seem like a very much upgraded Pro Max version of Blade. So Mydei's basic attack is just your standard, single target attack, so nothing really crazy on that, and you honestly shouldn't even be using his basic attack. Then for his skill, he's going to consume about 50% of his HP to do a blast attack to the enemy. And HP loss is very important to Mydei, because his talent will actually track the amount of HP he loses in battle as charges. And when you hit 100 charges, he is going to consume those 100 to enter the Vendetta state, which is super important to his gameplay. So upon reaching the Vendetta state, his skill will actually be enhanced to Kingslayer be King, which we'll go over in a moment here. And upon going into the Vendetta state, he will have an increased amount of HP and max HP, but at the same time, he is going to sacrifice his defense, which makes me think he's going to go down to 0 defense upon going into Vendetta, which is a very interesting, thing to do for him, but it is going to help him lose more HP per attack, so that is a good thing. Then, by losing even more HP to get even more charges, he will be able to use Godslayer be God, which is another enhanced skill, but this one is one that you don't choose to activate. Once you hit the 150 charges, it will just activate on its own. So I guess it's kind of similar to a follow-up attack, but it is not a follow-up attack. And also, as part of the talent, if Mydei does take fatal damage during the Vendetta state, he will actually be able to revive and heal up as well. So he is going to be able to really just not die, which is very true to his character. So to now go over his 2 enhanced skills here, which by the way have the coolest names of traces that I've seen in this game, probably ever. So for his enhanced skill, Kingslayer be King, it's going to consume 35% of his HP, and he is going to do a blast attack as well that's going to have more damage than the regular skill. Then for the enhanced skill, Godslayer be God, which is the automatic activation one, he is going to, rather than consume HP, he's going to consume the 150 charges it takes to activate it. It is a blast attack as well, and it's going to do probably way more damage than Kingslayer be King, considering that it's not one that you can just, use every turn. Well, depending on how often you get hit, you can't use it every turn, but yeah, we'll end up seeing how often he can do Godslayer be God once we actually can get our hands on him and see more gameplay. Then for Mydei's ultimate, he does a blast attack that will also taunt all of the enemies that are hit by it. And when activating the ultimate, he is going to heal by a bit and also accumulate some extra charges as well to get him closer to either the Vendetta state or to his next use of Godslayer be God. And for that next use of Godslayer be God after ultimate, the automatic activation of it will actually prioritize the same enemy that you prioritize with the ultimate's blast attack. So you can definitely use this to get some really strong damage onto an elite or a boss enemy. Then lastly, for Mydei's technique, he will pull enemies in towards him and inflict the daze status on them so they won't be able to attack you on the overworld. So that's everything we have for Mydei right now. And to go over his overall value, in my opinion, I think he is going to be a very strong DPS character and could also be the start of a possible HP scaling meta, considering that we're getting a Harmony support in Tribbie who is not buffing attack, but is rather buffing enemy damage taken and all type res pen. And we're also, getting Mydei now, who has a lot of HP-centric mechanics. It wouldn't surprise me if one of the upcoming characters also has some HP stuff in their kit. Maybe Casarus, considering that Anaxa is probably going to be more of like the erudition style, either DPS or sub-DPS. But we'll see when we get more information on them. I also think it's very important to note that Mydei is going to benefit more from healing sustainers rather than shielders, because while he does have a little bit of healing in his kit, you don't want him to exit that Vendetta state. So while he can still get that revive, you want to keep him from getting that revive as much as possible so that he can continually use, Kingslayer be King and Godslayer be God to just get a ton of damage in on the enemies. And I think that while Mydei is going to definitely be good on release, I also think that his long-term value will depend on how well future content and future characters will, lend themselves to his HP mechanics. So we will have to see, because I'm sure a lot of players have that scar of Blade coming out, being super fun and super cool, but then getting power crept into oblivion. So hopefully the same thing doesn't happen to Mydei, but he does seem like very much like a Pro Max version of Blade. Just super good, and I hope he is able to maintain that level of strength for a while. So that is everything I have for the 3.1 characters from the live stream. I will be doing separate videos for each of them before they come out when we get the full kit, as well as their respective rerun banners. So if you do want to see that or any more content from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.